I mean, that's kind of price fixing, right?
Right, you're doing
And
the
so in
buyer's
the
agent.
market,
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't think about the price fixing angle.
no, it's
But I
definitely
mean, yeah.
price fixing. On some level, it's price fixing.
Welcome back to Financial AF. I'm Anthony Ferrando. I do mortgages for a living, and every week I sit down with somebody who works around money. Real estate agents, financial advisors, title people, mortgage people. These are the folks who see how this stuff plays out up close. We're going to talk about their market, how they actually work, and the stories that they usually save for the bar. Then we open the phone lines and answer your questions live. Today's guest is Alfredo Bernal. He's an associate broker with Realty Austin Compass right here in the Austin, Texas market. And boy, he's been a successful real estate broker for, I mean, not 10, not 20, but close to 30 years now, I think.
I've probably been a broker longer than you've been alive. Well, an agent longer than you've been alive.
Almost. It's
Almost.
close, but I think I've still got you beat. Regardless, welcome to the show, Alfredo Bernal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony, man. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Well, I've known you for over a decade now. And that's why I said it must be 30, because at that time it was like you'd been selling real estate for 20 years. And,
actually.
I was impressed by that. Most people only sell real estate for about 20 minutes before they realize that this is way harder than it looks and they should do something else. But you're crazy enough to still be here after all this time. Before I ask you to spill the secrets, let me ask you this. Not how did you get started? I don't want to know how you got started. Well, I'd like to know how you got started, but more importantly, why did you get started in real estate?
Man, that's a good question.
And is there a reason that exists other than the money? I thought I could make good money doing it, because it has to boil down to that, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
I've never met a real estate agent who didn't get into real estate because they thought they could make a bunch of money doing it. But was there some other reason, or did it really just start there?
No, it was about the money. No, honestly, it was about the money. But I was very naive. I think I was 23, 24 years old. No, actually, I was 22, I think. 21 or 22. I had a girlfriend that was a mortgage loan processor. And, I mean, this was before, like, the internet, right? It was like 1992, 93. So everything was pretty much done by hand, all of the process. She would bring stacks of manila folders, right, that she would have to process. And me being a finance major, I started asking questions. I think rates were about 6.5% at the time. And I got the bright idea, because she wanted to be a loan officer. And I was like, well, I still had about a year in school. And I was like, well, by the time I finish, I'll probably be a loan officer. And then we could, she could do my mortgages and I could sell. Well, that didn't really work out, right? We broke up, I don't know, probably about a year later. And I think she was still processing. And I started selling HUD homes. But ironically,
now, what's a HUD home?
So a HUD home is an FHA foreclosure. So basically,
so the government takes the home back.
Yeah, well, they insure the loan, and if it doesn't sell at the courthouse, I believe, it goes back to the lenders. The way that I understand it, I mean, I've been to a few of the courthouse auctions. Now they're done online. There's still some over, like I'm in Leander, so it would be at the county courthouse the first Tuesday of every month. You can probably get the foreclosure postings are posted way ahead of time. You may be really excited a bit on something, and then it gets pulled off the list last minute because an attorney gets involved, or maybe they get their home caught up. But
so you were doing the listings you were selling HUD homes to buyers primarily.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so there were just a lot of foreclosed homes. See, I'm in diapers during this time, so I have to like really. I'm actually
There were.
partially asking because I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, there were. So in the 80s, you had a lot of local builders, and they were expanding. They were building in North Austin. Some of them came out this way. Well, not quite Far Leander, but around Cedar Park. They built Blockhouse Creek. There were some homes over by Spicewood Springs that had been built up, and a lot of those, especially in the Lamplight Village area, Gracie Woods, Copperfield, down in 4-8 Parkside, I think. Well, it was Continental Homes, and before that, it was Milburn. So you get, Milburn Park and some of these other areas, that huge Milburn area. Well, there were a lot of foreclosures, and so people would call in. I got a guy. He came in and we started talking about his goals and what he needed, and he was like, "Look, dude, my credit's like really bad. I can't get a loan, but my dad can help me." Well, one of my first deals was a $110,000 cash deal. We closed on a Saturday.
Wow.
And then the other cash deal, that was my second deal, that was also a cash deal. So you asked me why I stayed in it. It was that. It was easy.
Then you
for
met
me.
mortgage lenders, and you realize what a mistake you made getting into real estate, having to deal with scum that looks like me.
Well, the first two deals, right, and then I had to do a real deal, right?
Yeah,
Real deal with a mortgage and a buyer that maybe needed down payment assistance. I worked with a ton of first-time home buyers. I mean, for 15, 20 years, that's pretty much all I did was work buyers, and most of them were first-time buyers. I don't think I took a listing. It really started focusing on listings till maybe 2005, 2006, when I finally just wanted to make the change over to the listing side. I was always afraid of it for some reason, but I found that they're just as fun as working with a buyer. You're helping them move on with their life instead of first-time home buyers kind of planting their seeds. And Ben, it's fun to see a property that maybe they bought. Well, I mean, I have a customer that had 10 acres in Manchaca. So they bought it. There was a mobile home on the property. Initially, right, we're looking and we could probably sell it for about $250, but there's a lot of change. And so I started looking at it, and that's a commercial deal. These people thought they were going to walk away with $250,000. And we gave them the news that at the end of this deal, they were going to be millionaires and didn't have to work for the rest of their life.
Wow. So
that was cool.
You sold them that property, and then years later, so much development had occurred around it. It had essentially been rezoned. So now instead of selling what they bought as a residential property, now they're that person who has that land you drive past, who then sells it to the developer. And wow.
Correct. Yeah, no, I didn't sell it to them. But it was cool watching that, because they're trying to retire, right? Move away.
Right.
And,
oh, I see. Then this is why taking a listing is just as, rewarding or can be.
Yeah,
I see.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's unreasonable people on both sides, so it's unreasonable for me to expect that everyone is going to be reasonable. So,
right.
Yeah.
And so, well, I think that's a great lead into my next question, because, okay, you started in the 90s, you started with HUD homes, you gave me an example of somebody who, it sounds like, just like called into your office that you worked at, and that was how you met him. He happened to call and this is how, even when I started in 2012, people still did this. They would just like call your office. I was the king. When I really started in business, I would just sit I was the troll of the office. I sat there all day and nobody else was in there. I would get the call and I would take the person because I was
absolutely.
20 years old.
Well, it was pretty ruthless too. The guy that I worked with, the broker, he was from like the resort, type stuff, was an agent over at JB Goodwin, and it eventually started his own company. And man, it was insane because you had to be on phone duty. So you would sign up for phone duty, and you're asking, well, what's phone duty? You sit at the office, you sign up, let's say between 1 and 4, and people are calling in. They've got, a little homes magazine and with all the houses. And my guy was real creative, and he would take the tax value and he'd advertise the tax value. Well, a lot of the houses on the HUD list were listed for less than the tax value. So he would post the tax value as the appraised value, right? Because it's true, right? There will be a little disclaimer that that's the tax value. And so you might have a tax value of 75, but a sale price of, let's say, 50, right? But like anything, right? That property is going to sell for what it's worth, right? The buyer is going to determine what it's worth, not the list price. And so we were having multiple offers on these HUD homes, and they were sealed bids, and you had to drive them to San Antonio, and they were stamped. So if they didn't get there on time, your bid wasn't accepted. And then they would just look at the net, just like any other seller. The beauty of it is that they used to pay 6% of the closing costs, and they would pay us 5% commission. No, was it 5? It was 5 at the time, so it was a good deal for the agent. Great deal for the agent.
Homes too.
Yeah. They don't. I mean, now everything's done online. They pay 3%. They'll still pay the closing costs, but everything's done online, so it's a lot easier now. Oh, now you can get an inspection done, and you can turn on the lights. Back then, you couldn't do that.
Right. I know that, you typically have no utilities in those homes. You got to turn stuff back on. Now, obviously so much has changed since then. I mean, I get calls on my company line, but it's because people found me on Google Maps or something. But even then, it's like more and more rare for people to call. I feel like I'm getting more emails. Everyone's just finding me on the internet these days. And sometimes they call because they found me on the internet. But that whole idea of just joining a company and doing phone duty, I haven't even heard anyone. You said phone duty, and I remembered this relic of the past, but I've never heard anyone mention it in at least a decade, or at least
or longer.
Well, certainly longer than that. Actually doing it. So, what are some things that have stayed the same? If you think about it, I mean, because what stayed the same over the last 30 years. I would also wonder, would you expect these things to continue to stay the same for the next 30 years? It seems like on the one hand, the real estate industry is always in a state of change, like everything else in our universe is. But at the same time, there are things that you would imagine would change and just don't. And the biggest thing and most relevant, at least I think, is the real estate commission conversation. They had this law. But what are some things, you have a lot more context than I do over 30 years. What has stayed the same over that time, and what do you think might continue to stay the same?
When I look back, I think pretty much everything has changed. The one thing you talked about, the commissions, they've actually, on average, have gone up since the settlement, which was really weird. Now, in 1994, when I started, the broker explained how I got paid. And he was like, the seller will pay you. I said, but I'm working for the buyer. And he's like, yeah, but the way they do it, the seller pays. So I think having a business background, I've got a book back there. Is it back there? It's in the other bookcase, but it's essentially a law book. We had to study business law, torts, contracts, different, things. It was like an introductory course. And one of the things that we studied was the Antitrust Act. And really, the way that I see it, and this is just an opinion, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but when you have a listing agent talk to the seller and set a fee for the buyer's agent, you're essentially, I mean, that's kind of price fixing, right?
Right, you're doing the
So
buyer's
in the
agent.
market,
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't think about the price fixing angle.
no, it's
but,
definitely
I mean,
price
yeah.
fixing. On some level, it's price fixing. And then what happens is you mentioned discount. I don't like the term discount broker because that
Because
means
that also
that
assumes a standard price. I'm discounting
exactly.
from
But why? The question becomes why? And it's because the listing agents have been negotiating with, and I bet a lot of those conversations don't even happen the way they're supposed to. Because of the change, now they have to happen. And it's a great thing because everything is more transparent. I'll give you an example. If you come to me and you say, Alfredo, I want to buy a house, great. We go through all that, right? But I charge a fee for my service. I used to say it was free. It never was free. It was free to the buyer. Somebody was paying it. And now I think that, I believe in the transparency. What I don't like is the fact that effectively what they've done, especially to a first-time home buyer, because you can't finance that fee. And so if I'm a first-time home buyer and I have, 10 grand, right? Well, that barely covers my down payment on the average house in Austin. I think it's like $450. So I need another, $5,000 basically to make that deal work. Plus I need the buyer's agent commission because I need to bring that to closing. Right. And so it's basically priced out a lot of buyers. I don't know if that was done on purpose or what, but you brought up the 100. It's worked for 100 years. In spite of all of the little things that could have been done better. But that disclosure, I think, is important. There's a lot of builders that pay bonuses and things like that. Well, if my contract says 3%, there's a bonus. I have to disclose it to the buyer.
Right, because ultimately, you bring up a great point. If the commission is not a line item, if the buyer's agent commission is not a line item that the buyer is bringing in cash, then they are ultimately financing that closing cost.
Correct. And in effect, right, the commission is kind of built into the price of the house. So if the seller says, I don't want to pay it, then if the buyer really wants that house, we're going to have to come up with a way to get it done, right? Whether you have to raise the sales price or maybe some of the closing costs, you ask them to pay some more closing costs to free up some cash. There's ways to get it done.
Right. And by the way, and I don't say that as a negative thing, it's just important to understand that that's what's going on. It's
correct.
Like when people put in Texas, it's paragraph 12A1C. I always think about it like hemoglobin A1C, paragraph 12A1C, that's seller concession. And you'll never forget it now, 12A1C. But,
A1C.
But they'll put in the seller concessions, whatever amount, 5,000, 10,000, and people won't say, oh, the seller's paying for this. Well, no, you're financing it, okay? You're the only person buying anything here. And if they weren't giving you $10,000 in paragraph 12, then they would probably accept $10,000 less from you on the sales price, okay?
Correct.
You see how that works? And again, $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. I finance closing costs when I buy houses. Okay, I have the I have the seller pay it right on the contract,
right.
But that's financed closing costs. Okay, and a buyer agent commission is another financeable closing cost, and that's okay. It's just good that now some people are understanding that now when they're buying a house. I think there's still a large portion of the population that just like doesn't even care to know about this crap when they're buying a house. They just, because I deal with this when I'm explaining mortgage numbers to people. we're on the phone, but I can still see their eyes glazing over while I'm describing things to them, and I could just tell, you know, they don't care what I'm talking about. They don't care what the document prep fee goes to. It doesn't matter to them. But meanwhile, the very next person I talk to wants to know about the $2 guarantee fee and where that goes. And I don't even know where that goes. I just know that it's on there, and someone else.
I think I think that fee goes to the Texas Department of Insurance. I think it's kind of like a fee that they charge.
Yeah,
$2.
Once it's below a certain threshold, even I stop asking questions. Okay, $2, fine. It sounds official to me.
Well, but the buyer thinks, oh, they're nickel and diming me to death, right?
Some of them do. And others, you know, their taxes could change by $500 a month, and they don't care. You know, it's very amazing.
Yeah. Well, everyone's in a different place in life. Everyone has a different philosophy as how they approach money and how they invest and ultimately how they spend. You know, one of the things that I think is important, at least for me, because it's part of my process, is I really dig in, try to find what the buyer's lifestyle is like, what they need, right? Because I think a lot of buyers they're price shoppers, right? I'm a price shopper. You know, some things I don't like I'm not going to shop for, dentine gum, right? Or whatever, and try to save a nickel. But when I'm looking at a house and you're dealing with thousands and thousands of dollars, and most people are financing, so there's a limited number of funds that they can use to invest in the home. So they're looking at the monthly payment, which is ironically why we got a ton of calls for the HUD homes. Back then, there were some regulations regarding payments, but you don't really see that anymore because of some of the regulations that had changed in the early to mid 2000s, or even after 2008. That affected your industry as well. So. Yeah,
we don't talk about that year in my industry.
Yeah. Wow, man.
That is the year that must not be named.
Yeah. So I try to match the buyer, right, with the house instead of matching the house for the buyer's lifestyle. And I think a lot of agents make that mistake, is they don't approach it as everyone needs a place over their head, but the buyer who's going to be there a very, very long time, it's important to not only look at the immediate need, but how is this going to change, right? So one of the questions, how long are you going to be in the house? If they say 2 or 3 years and then I'm going to rent it out, well, then we got to look at a rental, right? We don't need to be going and buying a house in a brand new residential community where, it's 30 minutes away from town. What's that?
Isn't that the ultimate gut check? Because people want to live in a house for 2 years and rent it out. And then I can just imagine they're going out with you and they're complaining about the natural light and they're complaining about the size of the backyard. And you're saying, isn't this a rental in 2 years? Wouldn't you want a small yard and a rental and less windows to replace? Well,
not only that, but the
totally
upkeep.
Different mindset you would be looking at this through, if we're really talking about a rental in 2 years.
Yeah. No, and we got a visitor.
Oh, very cute.
I don't know if you've seen her. I have her as is it the yard inspector? I gotta look. What's your job?
Alfredo's dog just walked in, just for the listening crowd.
So, oh man, she get out of here.
Okay, let me ask you something, Alfredo. When was the last time you broke into a house as a real estate agent? How recently?
Oh man, I haven't really had to do that in a really long time.
You do a lot more listings these days than buyers, don't you?
Yeah.
Generally. Yeah, because is that something that you find yourself doing more on the buyer's side, breaking into houses?
Well, I haven't had to do that in a really long time, and I don't want to use the term breaking in.
Every realtor's
Sometimes,
broken into a house. I've never met one who hasn't, unless they were brand new. That is not
I
taboo.
mean,
I will not have a real estate agent on this show without asking them about
no,
breaking
I
into
have
houses.
been able. I have gotten into houses
This is not shameful.
without a key. You know, sometimes people walk off with keys, and you know, the electronic box doesn't work or something, right? But that's kind of a part of the industry we don't like to talk about, and really, that's really like the listing agent's fault. You know, if you got a vacant house and you live in Kansas, wouldn't you want your agent to go by there at least once a week just to make sure everything is cool? Like, that's why you're paying them the money, right? If my job is to protect their equity, well, how do I protect their equity? I'm going to keep an eye on their asset. You know, it's just kind
Isn't
of part
it
of
the
the
worst
deal.
though? Now, let me ask you this: did you find yourself get desensitized? Like the first time you had to break into a house on a showing, it was probably pretty nerve wracking. But the fifth or the 10th time, when you're like, did you ever get into a place where? Because I used to show like campus rentals, okay, and when you're doing college rentals, you just find yourself doing all kinds of stuff to get into units because no one cares about anything, and there's just no standards for anything.
Yeah.
Did you? And maybe this is a unique experience, the desensitization, but for me, and by the way, this was a long time ago, so long ago when I was a campus leasing agent, but. It just became a thing of like, oh, the key doesn't work here. Maybe I'll just go try the back door key. The back door key's not working. Well, okay, the sliding glass door is actually just not even locked, though. So
How about the walls of lock boxes? And they don't label them. Oh man. You walk, they're like, where's the lock box? And it's on the side of the building. You go to the side of the building and it's wall to wall, like lock boxes for all of the units. And then I was showing some of the Austin high rises, and you've got to go to the concierge to get a key. So I do that. They give me a key. I'm walking up with a whole family. I got the husband and the wife, the two kids, right? And we're going up and down the different floors, the different units. So go to this one and I try it, doesn't work. I'm like, this is weird, right? Go back downstairs. They're like, no, that's the key. Go back upstairs. They're like, here, try this one. So I call the agent because they all call for feedback, which I never give feedback.
I forgot
can
about
talk about
feedback.
that if you want. But it's call the agent. They're like, no, they have the key. I said, no, they don't. Well, apparently, so we couldn't get in. We couldn't get in. It's
Okay,
just,
I have
little
to
things
ask,
that happen.
you completely derailed me now. That is something from a fever dream feedback. I forgot that this was a thing. Is this still a thing? So back in my day, you would go and you would show a house, and okay, I show that. Let's say, first of all, you're never just showing one house to a guy. You're showing like 7 houses to the whole extended family, and it's a Saturday, and it's 1,000,000 degrees outside.
It's 100. Yeah. Like today,
And,
I don't know what it is.
You show the first house at 11, and you leave. It's 11:15. Before you set foot into the second house, the first house listing lady has called you, texted you, and emailed you demanding feedback. She wants to know.
Well,
feedback.
here's the thing with feedback.
They're so entitled, but they would be so entitled, and they want to know.
To the feedback?
Yes.
It's none of their business.
Thought it was always
it's none of their business what my buyer thought of that house.
the offer is the
Right?
feedback.
Exactly.
Or lack thereof.
Exactly. Well, here's the other thing, right? Is I have a fiduciary duty to the buyer.
To the buyer.
So unless the buyer gives me permission to share the feedback, it's my job to keep my mouth shut.
And
Because
as a
here's what
listing
happens, and I
agent-
think a lot of there's a lot of agents. You just do better, right? I love the feedback, right? because I can.
Do you? That
I
was
can,
my next
I
question.
do
As a
like the.
listing
I'll
agent.
ask the question. I'll ask the question
Okay.
for
Okay.
one reason.
I don't
They
want
may
anyone's
tell
feedback
me
as a loan
something.
officer.
Well, they may tell me. They may tell me something that I can use when if they submit an offer, right? Because anything the agent tells me, if it's
Oh.
relevant to the transaction, I have to share it with the seller. But inversely,
I didn't think
if
about
I
that.
tell the listing agent my buyer loved it, but we're going to go down the road. Let's say that deal doesn't work out, and now I'm back, and I submit an offer that isn't list price, and I'm trying to get some terms, like maybe some closing costs, or maybe the listing agent says, hey, the seller needs a lease back, but my people want to be in the day after closing, right? So why would I share that they loved it,
Right.
right? So really, I'm hurting the buyer by giving the listing agent feedback. But when I ask for feedback, they just bleh, all over the place. And it's like, okay, thank you. You know, like I had one lady, well, here's the deal. When I sold my house, it wasn't even on the market. I had a sign in the yard. It was basically an exclusive listing. I had a sign in the yard, so it wasn't on MLS. And then we put it on as a coming soon. And so those are not syndicated to any of the public sites. It's just on my website at Compass. Somebody saw it. They made an offer on the house. And the buyer's agent started sharing some things about the buyer. Look, I'm a firm believer that you're going to, 9 out of 10 times, if you put the house on the market, you're going to get more, especially if you price it competitively and you provide a lot of value compared to the other homes. So this guy told me they're gonna do a contract on a new home and all this stuff, and so I'm like, okay, maybe I should put it on the MLS. I wanted 525, but I think we ended up at 489. And here's the thing: is I was going through a divorce. If I'd have listed it at 525 and put it in the MLS, because of the market, I probably would have had to lower the price anyway. And let's say it took me 2.5 to 3 months after I lowered the price to close, and I'm in the house another 120, maybe 120 days. That I'm having overhead and I'm having to, right? So even if I held out at 525 and I sold it for 500, man, my mortgage payment was $2,700 a month. Well, you multiply that by 4, and what do you get? At 425, you get 10 grand. So, did I really lose out? I mean, we sold it. I don't know. I think our net was like.
And you sold it to the buyer because of the feedback, or?
No, I sold it to the
trying to tie this
buyer.
into
So
the
I got the
feedback that we were
feedback.
talking about.
I
I'm
got the
lost.
feedback, which started my. Let me put it in the MLS, right?
Oh, I see. I
Right?
see. Yeah.
Well, because if I put it on the
buyer was so
MLS,
excited about it, but yet they only offered 489. So you were like, okay, F this. And let me list it and try to
Right.
get more. And then you kind of did the math backwards. And you said, well, okay.
well, not only that, but my
actually-
wife and I were going through a divorce, and so
Right.
so that would mean one of us had to leave, right? Because we're going through a divorce. Right? I don't want to live in the house. She don't want to live in the house with me. I don't want to live in the house. You know, it's just too difficult. So we both moved out, and now we have this house, right? That we need to paint and just do all this stuff. So it's vacant. No one's living there, but we're still having to make the payment.
Now, that's
So
one of my favorite topics is divorce. You know, I am a certified divorce lending professional and a real estate collaboration specialist in the realm of divorce, and my sister's a divorce attorney. So this is one of my favorite topics. Now, anytime you have a marital home, something's going to happen with that. You're going to sell it or you're going to refit. I mean, somebody's going to keep it and somebody's going to leave. And in my experience, that means that house is getting sold or refinanced.
or someone's staying in it. And here's some free advice. And actually,
This is exactly what I was about to ask for as somebody who has gone through it and
so
made
this
that
is this.
decision.
Here's some free advice. So I had actually this has come up a lot where there's a divorce, someone is quote unquote allowed to stay in the house because the asset needs to be disposed of. So that's in the divorce decree that a party to the, and it's usually the wife because the kids normally stay with the mom, you know, in the family home. But there's some sort of deal where once the kid turns 18 or once he finishes high school, you know, it's at a later date, right? And so what they do is they just say, okay, well, we'll just sell it. Well, husband hasn't been in the house for 6 years. Wife has been paying, right? So now they go to sell the house and the husband gets half of the equity. No,
Right.
We need to do an appraisal before that happens so we establish the price on the day of the divorce. Because if I got divorced today and I don't sell the house for 6 years, well, that's appreciation, right? I've been paying.
This is the exact reason why we have to dispose of the asset immediately upon divorce.
Right.
This is why there is no 6 years. That does not exist in my world at all. There is
and
no
here's another
universe
thing,
in which
too, is
where if the house spouse cannot afford the house, somebody
get
else
it
is going to have
sold,
to buy
yeah.
it. Okay, there's none of this. There's none of this. What you just described in a sane and moral world.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. This is not what you do. You have to dispose of that asset in one way or another. You have to.
or figure out a way to make the deal and make sure it's in the divorce decree, right? Because that's going to be the judge's orders. One of the things that I run into a lot is lawyers don't really transfer the deeds properly. Is they do a quitclaim deed, which is fine, but when that person goes to sell the house, there's mortgage insurance, and they will not insure it with a quitclaim deed because that is essentially somebody who says, I give up all my rights, but did they really do that correctly? What's to say that they can't come back? So we need a general warranty deed or a special warranty deed in order for the title company to be able to insure that mortgage.
That's absolutely correct. And a quitclaim deed is easier to write. Okay, it's easier to draw up. But it's just like the first scenario. Anytime you're passing the buck till tomorrow, it will be 10 times more expensive tomorrow to remedy some of these things. And you always run into these speed bumps when you need them the least. Okay, when you have other things going on, it all happens at the same time, and now you've got to deal with the crappy deed that you did. You got to track down your spouse from 10 years ago and hope that they're in a better place now to help you with something. I've seen all shades in between. Okay, let's take
go
some
to
calls.
a real
How about
estate
that?
attorney, have them draw up the deed, right, and give it to the lawyer. And if the lawyer has any problem with it, my advice is to tell the divorce attorney to contact the real estate attorney and let them work it out. That's why you're paying them. Right?
Okay, so we have some callers. I know this is only the second episode of this show, but believe it or not, Alfredo, we have a very loyal fan base who listen all the time. They even were listening before we had episodes somehow. And these may or may not be AI, but we're going to take some calls from our loyal listeners. One day we'll even have a phone number where they can truly leave these voicemails.
They can,
Yeah, we'll get your reactions. I haven't heard these either, so we'll see what's going to happen here.
all right, good.
Thank you. What up, Brianna?
What's up, Anthony? Love what you guys do on this show. So this is Brianna from San Antonio. My husband and I just got pre-approved, and the number the bank gave us is honestly way higher than I'm comfortable with. Like, they're saying we can afford a $450,000 house, but when I run that payment, I start sweating. How do we figure out what we can actually afford without just going off what the bank says we qualify for? Thanks for taking my call.
Great question. Okay, monthly mortgage payments. The lender says they're approved for like $450, and she's like, "Dude, that does not pencil for me. I'm not paying
Right.
$450." And I always say the lender should be way more comfortable with your payment than you are. Okay,
Yeah.
you know
Absolutely.
the lender should be like wanting to lend you $450, and you're like, "No, I'm good with $300." That's a sign that you're financially responsible. Okay, that's a good sign. When I talk to people and I approve them for $450, and they're complaining because I can't get them to $600. Now I'm worried about them because I see their file. I know how to document income and all of the ways that I can do that. And I see their super long credit report. But, part of her question is, how do I know what I am comfortable with? Do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, I know this is maybe more of a mortgage question, but you've seen enough of this kind of stuff.
Just real quick, I like it as a listing agent if I get a letter that says, hey, this person is qualified for 7, but they're looking at a $600,000 house. It can go both ways. They can use that and say, oh, well, this person can pay. But it also says
This person can pay.
Yeah, but it says this person can,
You know what I
pay,
mean?
but what it says is that they have a strong borrower. And somebody like that isn't going to make a big deal out of some repairs that the seller won't pay. More than likely, if they don't like the deal, they're going to walk because they have options.
Right.
And regarding the payment, to answer your question, just do a budget. Just figure it out. Interest expense, and of course, talk to an accountant. I
always say take your rent amount and just increase it as much as you can, and you're still comfortable because it's going to go up. Like if your rent currently is $2,500 a month, it's whatever property you're looking at buying, it's going to go up from there. If your rent is $4,000 a month, whatever house you're going to buy, for whatever reason, you're going to go up from that. It doesn't matter what your current rent is. If you're a first-time home buyer, whatever house you're buying is going to be more than whatever you're paying in rent. That's just how it is right now. But you have to figure out, one of the first questions I ask people is, what is your ideal comfortable monthly payment? Greater than 0. And then usually they tell me what their rent is. And I say, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm currently paying $1,500 a month. Okay, great. Now, what is your comfortable maximum? Like you found the perfect home, but then I gave you the monthly payment and you said, Anthony, it's $1 higher than this number, and I know I'm not going to get a good night's sleep here anymore. It's $1 higher than $3,000 a month, and it's like even $3,000 a month was like my head is spinning. I'm lightheaded even thinking about it. And you're telling me it's 3,001. I'm not. I know it's the perfect house, but I'll never
bring another $100 to closing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then if I'm the lender, it can be easy for me to say, well, you're approved up to 5,000. I mean, what's 3,001?
Yeah. But here's the thing: is everything is temporary, right? That I think is a little unreasonable. $1, a couple $100, I get it. But
the idea of it.
If
literally
you
walking away over $1, but
if you can't comfortably afford the house, then don't buy it, or buy something that you can afford, right? And make some compromises along the way. Look, when I bought my house, I mean, it was ugly, right? But I wanted to buy a house. It was in a great neighborhood. Yeah, it needed some work, paint, floor, everything. I mean, it needed everything. It was dated. The house was 20 years old. But it fit my needs. It was in a great area, had a huge yard. I had 2 dogs and a cat at the time. Needed a place like a home office. So we bought it. The terms were great, and we bought it. It was about, I don't know, like $300 or $400 more than what we wanted to spend. But at that point, I felt like I was stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, because any other house that I looked at in that neighborhood was more money, about the same condition, and had a smaller yard. We went for it, and I mean, it was the best decision at the time. And looking back, I think I would do it again the same way. Because when we sold it, when we were in that house, we bought it in 19, we sold it we closed I don't know, maybe April of 25. So, and we both walked away with the house basically almost doubled in price. So
Yeah, so then by that point, it's like, as long as you can afford to keep it over the time, then by the time you sell it, I mean, and that's really the ultimate trade-off in real estate, is that after you buy the house, you are somebody who has a lower net worth. You lose money immediately by buying the house, and then you set money on fire as you're repairing things and keeping it up and paying for taxes and insurance. But then 10 years later, when you go to sell it, it's like, wow, massive payday. Thank you. Amazing.
Well, here's the thing. Because I've been in thousands and thousands of houses and looked at thousands and thousands of inspection reports, whether they're mine or someone else's, maybe somebody needed some help, and so we review the inspection report. Sometimes they're attached to the listings. What I found as a buyer's agent, and especially as a seller's agent, is that most of the problems that are wrong with a property that come out on the inspection report it's all deferred maintenance, right? I mean, I've sold several properties, and then they come back 2-3 years later, and I was like, well, we need to take care of the deferred maintenance since you own the home. I was like, did you do anything that's on the inspection report that people forget, right? Mm-hmm. So I tell everybody, if the house is $250,000, $300,000, you're gonna have a couple $1,000s a year in maintenance.
Yeah,
just
no
maintenance.
Doubt.
The roof, right? We don't ever get up there, but after it rains, the roof did its job, right? There's no leaks, but every other home around you is getting hail. They're filing hail claims. And I've literally had
You're
people.
Probably going to have a new roof soon too.
Had roofs, but they don't ever get their roof fixed, and then 5, 6, 7 years later, it still has the hail damage, but you can't make a claim because you can only make a claim within a certain time after the event, and so then the homeowner's stuck paying $30,000 for a new roof that they could have just by paying attention.
Yeah.
And save them, thousands of dollars.
All right, here's another call. All right. What up, Renee?
What's up, Anthony? My sister got me hooked on the show, and now I never miss one. This is Renee from San Antonio. So we're under contract on an older house built in like 1985, and the inspection came back with some foundation movement, hairline cracks, doors sticking, that kind of stuff. The seller's offering a $5,000 credit, but the repair bid we got came in way higher than that. I guess my question is, how do you know when to keep negotiating versus when to just walk away? Appreciate you both.
Oh, hey, perfect. Perfect. You were just talking about repairs and inspections. Here's my thing with foundation. If I get dizzy walking through the house, then I get dizzy as I'm walking out, and then I don't come back into it. Well, what about you, Alfredo? This is like right up your alley.
Oh, man.
The seller's offering $5,000.
So
Sounds
here's
like
the
it's
deal.
probably more like 15 or 20 or more, to repair the foundation. Should this woman keep negotiating or just throw her hands up?
What is your risk tolerance? I mean, why that house, right? Do you have to have that house? Because if you do, then yeah. See, just keep negotiating, try to get as much as possible. And depending on how bad it is, if you're a government loan, they're going to look at that a little bit differently than maybe a conventional loan. Am I correct, Anthony?
Yes, well, she mentioned that doors are sticking and windows are sticking. That is a problem if you're getting an FHA or a VA loan.
Or a
Depending
VA
on
loan.
the degree, if the windows are unable to close or the doors are unable to close securely, you could even have a problem on a conventional loan.
Okay. Well,
Because you have to
depending
be able
on.
to secure the property. I mean, it's probably not that bad, but
So I never, unless it's something major that has to be done before closing, it's always best to somehow, now unless you're maxed out on the lender's closing costs, but try to get as much credit as possible. Don't ever let them take it off the price, because that doesn't really put money in your pocket. And for what, every what, $1,000 or 10,000, your payment only drops it's negligible for the amount of cash that you have to put in. Do the repairs yourself so that you can control the whole process. The last thing I would want for a buyer is for the seller to do the repair, and then we get it re-inspected and it's not the way that it's supposed to be. Because then I got to go back to the seller. And now I'm arguing. Now the argument is between what the inspector is saying and what the seller did, right?
right.
So the buyer has they don't have a voice and a choice in that matter, right? So I'm a big believer, always give the buyer, the seller a voice and a choice. I don't ever make a decision for anybody, right? I'll give them my professional opinion. Sometimes they ask me my personal opinion, and they're paying me for my professional opinion, but hey, like everybody, they become friends, and sometimes I give my personal opinion, and sometimes they walk, sometimes they continue to move forward. The last thing you want to do as a seller is repair all that stuff, the little cracks and things like that, then have the foundation done, and then you got even more work than what you started with.
Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, are you buying a house with $20,000 worth of piers that needs to be put in the foundation? Yeah,
Don't do it. No, don't do it. Just don't do it.
I'm running away from that one all day.
Yeah, well, that's why I said, do you have to have that house?
Yeah.
More. A lot of the times it's no. I just like it, or whatever.
All right, here's another one. What up, Omar?
Hey, Anthony, longtime listener, first-time caller. This is Omar from Pflugerville. So we bought our house about 2 years ago, and everything was going fine. Then last month, we get this letter from our mortgage company saying we've got an escrow shortage, and now our payment's jumping like $280 a month. Our rate is fixed, so I don't get how that happens. Can you explain what's going on, and is there anything we can actually do about it? Thanks, guys.
Yes,
That's a
your
great
taxes
question.
and/or insurance went up. Then there's nothing you can do about it. You have to just pay the money. And
That's
your
one
loan
thing.
officer should have explained this to you when you bought the house, because your fixed rate on your mortgage, that affects your principal and interest portion of your payment, not your escrows. So your principal and interest portion will always stay the same, but your property taxes will go up over time. Your homeowner's insurance will go up over time. And the mortgage company is required to check your escrow account every 6 months to make sure that it's on track. And if it is on track, you don't even know that it happened. But then if it is short, you get a letter in the mail that you just received that is demanding money from you. Often they want money up front, and they tell you your monthly payment has just increased by, a couple hundred is kind of getting off light compared to some of the bad news I've heard from people. But anything to add on this one?
Yeah,
Alfredo?
absolutely. So you bought it 2 years ago. The first thing I would want to know is it a new home? If it's a new home, they collect they're over collecting on the escrow account usually in the beginning, and so they end up sending you a check back because they can't keep. I don't know, Anthony. What's the rule in terms of the amount? Anyway, there's a regulation. They have to keep a certain amount.
The most that they can keep in an escrow account is 3 additional months worth of insurance and 3 additional months worth of property taxes. But the problem is on new construction, we only have a value based on the land. We don't have a value at the county based on the new property.
On the new valuation.
With the improvements with the home built on it. And so the title company has to guess how much the taxes are going to be. And you're right. You either get a nice check, which
nice check.
But you can be. I have heard of people being.
Well, here's what happens
short on some of these new construction, because sometimes, and this is improper, but it happens. Sometimes the builder's lender will lend on unimproved value. It's not correct, and I don't know what happens to these loans later. I've just seen and heard the horror stories. But occasionally you do end up very short and you're like thrilled at how low you're paid. Everyone thinks they get a free lunch in life, and I'm just as guilty of this. But then you find out, oh, my payment went up by like $1,000 a month now because I'm finally paying property taxes.
Well, and that's actually a really good. Some lenders will actually collect what they estimate. They base the taxes on the sale price.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Look at the tax rate. Right. And so they base the taxes on that. And so that's what they start to collect. But at about the 6 or 7 month mark, if you're earlier in the year, you'll get a check back.
Yeah.
And it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone, you're going to get that check. Don't spend it. Put it in the bank. Open up another account. That's not your money. That belongs. Well, it is their money, but that's really not their money, because what's going to end up happening is they're going to end up taxing you at the end for the whole year. And if you don't have that money, right, you're going to get one of those letters.
Well, in the case of an escrow, though, that is all taken care of before you get a refund check.
Well, I've had buyers that get the refund in the middle of the year, and then come the following year, the lender pays the taxes, and then 6-7 months later, they do the review, and they're like, "Oh, he's short."
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Because, well, what I know the exact cases you're referring to, when, let's say you buy in 2025 and you buy late enough in the year that the actual tax bill that you pay in 2025 is the unimproved tax bill.
Correct.
But when you closed based on estimated taxes. And so then when they only paid based on unimproved at the end of 2025, then in early 2026, you get this check in the mail. And you're like, oh, I've got this money in the mail. Now, I still don't think you have to set that money aside, but you are certainly almost always going to get a letter in the mail again 6 months later.
But you can't send it back.
Your monthly payment, and to your point, there could certainly be some under collection there that needs to be made up.
That's normally what I find.
All that money, but you're not going to give it up, either.
That's normally what I find on the new home side, but always file the home exemption. And for this caller, did he file his homestead? And were there any other exemptions on the property, like over 65 or any of those that got removed when the tax office saw the transfer? right?
Right.
The lender should have seen that and known, like, hey, man, these taxes, this exemption's going to go away. And sometimes they catch it and sometimes they don't.
Boom. Beautiful. Well, Alfredo, I've got one last question for you.
No, I'm not going to lend you money.
What are you most excited about in real estate currently?
The change.
What are you most looking forward to?
The change, and I hope that the market turns around, right?
I was going to say lower rates.
So that I have more business.
These lower rates. I've been dating my rate for 4 years now. She's moved in. I've met my rates in a whole extended family. They're wondering why I haven't proposed. But 4 years ago, I was told I'm only dating my rate. I married my house.
I never used that because I thought, I mean,
the clown makeup on the people who did, though. I mean, really.
Oh man, historically the rates, I mean, I've seen them as high as 9.5%, 10%. They're low, but things are expensive, and Austin is one of those areas that, as more people move here. I mean, I've been here since '88. My first apartment was $250 a month.
Wow.
Right? That apartment today probably rents for like $1,100-1,200. A one bedroom off of South Lamar and Manchac, but that whole area has been completely revitalized. That you can't find an apartment for $250 a month anymore.
No.
So I've been here a long time.
I'm definitely looking forward to a better market, a lower
absolutely.
rate environment, and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the show. Alfredo, thank you so much for joining us.
Captain.
Everything that we mentioned, plus contact info, the full transcript. If you want to hire Alfredo, he will sell your house in Austin, Texas, or he'll
And
even
I will help
buy
you
one.
buy one too.
If you ask nicely, he might even help you buy one.
Yeah,
you can get all that
I'll help you out.
information directly on the website at financialaf.com. If a question in the caller segment sounded like your situation, don't take a podcast answer as your answer.
No.
If you want me to run your actual numbers, schedule a discovery call and I'll walk you through it like a professional. Links are in the show notes. New episodes every week. We will see you next week. This show is for education, not financial advice. Rates and programs change. Talk to a licensed professional about your situation. And thank you for listening to Financial AF.